Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Yellowface by David Henry Hwang. Now, first off, I don't know a lot of David Henry Hwang's work. He's actually written quite a lot, but I've only seen Chinglish, which played on Broadway, and I saw Tarzan, for which he wrote the book for the musical. He's been nominated for the Pulitzer 3 times, and Butterfly was his big splash on Broadway that he made his name with that play, and I've never seen it. I really would love to see it. So going into this, not really knowing what his style of playwriting is, what is Yellowface about? The play starts with a character named DHH, David Henry Hwang, and it is 1988, and he has written a letter to Equity to protest the casting of Jonathan Pryce as the role of the engineer, which is ostensibly an Asian role, in the Broadway-bound production of Miss Saigon. Now, Jonathan Pryce played this role in London, drew in slanty eyes, and did the whole Yellowface thing. This play, Yellowface, came out in 2007, so it's interesting 14 years later to see our reactions now are like, oh no, he didn't. But back then, it was actually a discussion whether this was a good idea or not, which is quite comical. So as this play began, I was a little trepidatious because I was like, oh, is this just an autobiographical play? How interesting is this going to be? But I did not realize this play is a farce. So as it continued to move on, things got more and more ridiculous. And I was like, wait a minute, that can't be true. That just can't be true. And normally, I don't like to be confused in a play because what it does is it takes me out of the play and it puts me in my head. And I was definitely in my head during this play, trying to make sense of what was fiction and what was nonfiction. But by the end of the play, I was completely on board with this style of writing. And I was fine with the fact that I was having to jump in and out of the play to kind of make sense of what I was watching. I've seen some plays that are meta and self-referential, but I feel like David has created his own style of writing, which I really appreciated as a writer, particularly. And as an audience, the play was quite funny, very engaging, and very thought-provoking. So what more can we ask out of a play? The performers in the play are great. There aren't any roles. I've said this before, I feel like it's the role that wins the award. There aren't really any roles in this show that are award-winning roles. Although I will say, Francis Jue, who plays multiple roles in the show, but primarily plays the role of David Henry Hwang's father, is fantastic. Of any of the performances in the show, I found his the most winning. Just very truthful, very funny. He really created a character. He did just enough of an accent to give us that feeling of someone who had moved from China to the United States without giving us a stereotypical kind of dialect. He was just really winning, and I really loved his performance. Most of these actors, with the exception of Daniel Dae Kim, who plays David Henry Hwang, play multiple characters. It's a multi-ethnic cast, and they play people of all different races. Although most of them have one main role that they play in which their ethnicity does represent that character, because this is a play about race. So it is important for some of these characters to be the correct race, just so that that message is hit home. And what I love about David Henry Hwang's writing is that he's not afraid to take the piss out of himself. He recognizes that things aren't black and white or yellow and white. Ugh. There's nuances to these ideas. You know, he's doing a play where he's got people of different races playing different people of races, so he's doing it. And the question is, when is it correct and when is it not? This play really resonated with me because my first musical that I wrote, I started writing in 2004, and it had its premiere at the New York Musical Theater for that. All right, I have completely gone off my review of Yellowface. Let's bring it back home. So, a little confused at the beginning of Yellowface because I wasn't familiar with David Henry Hwang's style. Then I realized it was a farce. Then I thought it was hilarious. And then by the end of it, I thought, wow, these are some really thought-provoking ideas. And then I went home and I read David Henry Hwang's Wikipedia page so that I could better understand which aspects of the play were based on his real life and which ones were made up. And also, he does come clean in the play, and he tells us which character, one of the main characters is made up, and he tells us that. And I was like, yeah, I figured that guy wasn't real. But I love this play. I will say that. I think it's a fascinating play. I think I've given you enough to really get a sense of it, what it is. Considering that it opened off-Broadway 14 years ago, it is still applicable, still an interesting discussion. I love David Henry Hwang's self-deprecating humor, and I may even go back and see this play again. Yellow Face, playing on Broadway. Go check it out.
'Cause I don't want to be bored and confused. Bored and confused. If you do, then